Hi, everyone. Welcome to T20 World Cup Daily here on from the Pavilion. I'm Carter Krishnaiyer. Let's get to the action today. We're going to go through what happened on Sunday, give a brief preview of Monday's matches, and then give an update on Team USA. So, New Zealand and Afghanistan, a match I thought would be fantastic, ended up being not as competitive as I thought. New Zealand, who I was beginning to question because the U.S. had given them such a good match in a warm-up a few days ago, and then obviously the U.S. gave India a good match yesterday. So the U.S., in spite of all the injuries, may be more competitive than many had thought we would be. New Zealand won by 5 wickets with 13 balls spare down in Chennai. There was a interesting decision by Afghanistan to try and post a number. So they win the toss, they elect to bat, and Naib got 63 off of 35 balls, anchoring the innings, but then they just didn't post the kind of number that was that easily defendable on this kind of quick track and the pitch in Chennai. So it was a tough start for New Zealand in the power play. The first few overs, they were struggling. They were in a situation where they had lost 2 wickets early. Finn Allen and Ravindra on successive deliveries from Rahman, who was one of the spinners we talked about yesterday, was going to make a big difference in this match. But then Tim Seifert, who's fantastic, recovered. Fantastic, 65 off of 42 balls. Glenn Phillips, who we've talked about a lot thus far in advance of this tournament and then during this tournament, was partnering with him, and he had 42 runs. So this was ultimately a pretty successful chase for New Zealand. They got it done with 2 overs to spare, 2 overs and an additional ball to spare, and it was ultimately one of their most successful chases in T20 history for them. The Ireland match was, I guess, fairly straightforward. Ireland-Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka posted a defensible number in Colombo. Ireland, at times it looked like they were getting a partnership. They were getting a flow of runs, but really it was too much to chase down, and they fell short. But they gave it a good effort. So now let's get to the England-Nepal game, because I've got a number of notes on this. So instead of ad-libbing, I'm going to be doing some reading here of notes I took down during the match, which were, again, England wins the toss. They opt to bat first. They get a 184 over 7. They get a century from Bethel, Harry Brook, who we've talked about. But Will Jacks was the star, and in fact there was some interesting tactics here. Curran gets put out early on a bad mental error. It was awful batting, but he would redeem himself in bowling. Jofra Archer, who was a crack bowler, really tactically very smart, basically sacrifices his wicket to get Jacks back on strike with a critical few balls left. That made the difference. So I'm going to give Jofra Archer some credit for what he did tactically. England's bowling, Rashid, who has been hit or miss. Obviously, he was great a few years ago, but when the ball is holding up for him, when I've seen this before from him, where he gets ravaged. So Sam Curran ends up being the hero on the other end, because Nepal only needed 10 balls from the final over, and they didn't get there. England ends up winning by 4 balls. Nepal not able to get the job done. So the thing with the late part of the innings for Nepal is they were content to keep the flow of runs going to stay competitive. But you had Lokesh Baum, who was fantastic, right? He basically I think it was 40 for 20, something like that, maybe 39 for 20. But he was able to keep the flow of runs going, but when he needed the critical boundaries in that last over, he couldn't get them. So that's Sam Curran's bowling, and really quite a performance from England to get through that. And I have to tell you, the Nepali fans, brilliant. They bring so much to this competition, which I experienced here in the States 2 years ago with Nepal. I had never quite seen anything like it. And it's a country that has never been competitive in international sport. And to see them really embrace cricket without any cricketing history has been pretty dramatic. And it doesn't have the historical ties to the country. Obviously, in the region, it's historically critical. I mean, keep in mind, this is not Nepal was never a British colony. But important result for England. I think they push on from here. Obviously, some concerns coming out of the match about Rashid's poor bowling, about some of the decisions early in the England innings in terms of batting. But the Bethel came through, as I said. Brooke came through. Will Jacks really came through. And should mention that Singh Ali became the first Nepali player to hit 2,000 T20 runs in international competition during this match. So and he was he kept that flow of runs going. Like I said, I think he was 45 for 30, something like that. They threaten, right? You're batting second, you know what the target is, and you're able to get to Rashid Ali. So it was there in the balance. It was there in that last over, well bowled by Sam Curran. So let's get to tomorrow's fixtures real quickly. Scotland versus Italy. I think Italy are the favorite here. Scotland, not very impressive in their first outing, the 35-run loss to the West Indies. They obviously have an edge in experience at this level. We saw how that affected the U.S. yesterday, the lack of experience. But Italy secured their spot in this tournament by finishing well ahead of Scotland in the qualifiers, finishing ahead of Jersey, finishing ahead of almost equaling the Netherlands in the European qualifiers. And they have been brilliant. I mean brilliant this week in the warm-up matches. Italy, the sleeper of this tournament, much like the U.S. was 2 years ago. The U.S.'s form coming to that tournament was really good. And some of us chose to believe maybe the U.S., maybe it was just an aberration, that form in the warm-up matches, and that carried through the first two fixtures, actually the first three fixtures, because they gave India all they could handle in that third fixture in the group stage up in Nassau County last time. So Italy, I think, similar momentum. I like them to win this match, even though I don't think they're the necessarily the favorite in most people's minds. Wayne Madsen, player to watch. Keep an eye on him for Italy. I really like him. Zimbabwe Oman is the next match. What are the storylines here? Zimbabwe's back after missing the last World Cup, which was significant, I think, in kind of the regression of Zimbabwe cricket. And who am I looking for in this match? I think Raza is a big time experienced international for Zimbabwe. They have a great pace duo. They bring a lot of heat with Muzambi, Bani, and Nagavra. Two really good pace, fast bowlers. Oman, I've seen them. I like Jatandeer Singh, but that's about it. I mean, I really think Zimbabwe, they were looking for a big World Cup after being out of the last one. This match is in Colombo, by the way, where we've seen scoring already, intense scoring. And then the other match is South Africa versus Canada. This is going to be could be the most lopsided match of the tournament thus far. I just don't think Canada preparation has been ideal for this tournament, and they don't have the sort of experience, even though they regularly qualify for these events. They don't have the sort of experience the U.S. has, even though the U.S. does not regularly qualify for these events. And Canada has qualified for the U.S. over a number of events coming out of, I want to say the CONCACAF region, that's football, but the North American region. But Radaba's back, Miller's back, Norte's back for South Africa. They're looking to win this whole thing. So this is this is on paper a very easy way, a light fixture to start the tournament. Now, of course, we thought that was going to be the case for India, playing in Mumbai. And the U.S., there are a couple of critical moments, as we talked about, where the U.S. goes a little differently, maybe a little more experience, maybe a little more nous. Maybe Manak sets the field up differently. Maybe that ball to get Sky out is not dropped. Maybe you have a situation where you don't face the injuries, and that's kind of what maybe it goes very differently. So let's talk about Team USA for a minute, because I think what we are seeing now is a situation where two really good performances in the last warm-up match against New Zealand and in the opener against India, but nothing from a result standpoint to show for it. And let's face it, this match against India, it was there for the taking, but it was never a match that where the expectation was there to win. Ali Khan's injury, that is critical. The United States, facing Pakistan on Tuesday, need Ali Khan back. Can Skadley Van Schalwick bowl as effectively against Pakistan as he did against India, with I think a little bit more of a substantial middle of the order for Pakistan? Yeah, and yes, I am saying that because I think we've seen India's middle of the order kind of be inconsistent in the past. I did not think they would be as poor as they were against the United States. I mean, you look at how poor some of the batters were for India, and Sky had to carry them. So, does Ali Khan get back? I don't know. I have not heard any reports on his injury. In terms of Jesse Singh, who got hurt in the warm-up match against New Zealand, I've heard there is a possibility he could bowl in the final two matches against Netherlands on Friday, and then maybe a week from today. So he might be back, but he probably will not be back for this match. And he is the vice captain, and he could bowl significant overs. So where are you going to find overs to bowl for the U.S. if Ali Khan and Jesse Singh are both out? Shubham got injured bowling and had to gut out that sixth ball of his second over. So he's hurt as well. But then, of course, he was able to bat very effectively. In fact, I think was the leading run scorer for the U.S. He was not able to run, which meant perhaps we left a couple of runs on the table. We got to 132. Maybe we get to 138, 140 if he's able to run out a couple of the what would have been singles or braces that ended up being dot balls because he couldn't run. But he was able to still bring the power. I tend to think maybe he'll be able to bowl four overs, or at least give it a go. So that's a couple additional overs. And then maybe you have either Khan or Jesse Singh back. If you don't have Ali Khan back, I think it's going to be very difficult to beat Pakistan. I think if you have Ali Khan back, you can beat Pakistan. If you don't, I think it's going to be tough. Sanjay Krishnamurthy and Milind Kumar developed a pretty formidable partnership. That began to develop in the New Zealand warm-up, really developed in this India matchup. Milind doesn't get caught out when the wicketkeeper bobbled the ball and then he got caught out, basically, a ball to the stumps. I think the U.S. puts India under more pressure. So if that partnership, and both those guys are fit, so if that partnership can anchor the innings for the United States, there is a chance. There is a chance. Now, the scoring in Colombo is going to be higher scoring than it was in Mumbai. At least we assume that. But remember, 2 years ago, the Pakistan seemed like it had done enough in terms of its scoring and its innings to hold the U.S. off. The U.S. were not getting boundaries in their innings, but they were keeping a flow of runs going with a partnership in the middle, which it was quite critical. And it was actually two guys who lost their wicket really quickly. Monak Patel, who went for a duck against India the other day, and then Andres Gauss, who went for a duck against New Zealand and then didn't do much against India and he lost his wicket pretty quickly in the second over. Those two anchored the innings for the U.S. to where they kept the flow of runs going. And that flow of runs was enough to where you get to the final over and you have Milland, and by that time you have Milland and you have Aaron Jones, who of course has been suspended from international cricket, unfortunately, for alleged match fixing. You have those two, and you're trying to keep Jones on strike as much. But enough was done to where you get to the super over, and then the super over brilliant performance. Netravalkar bowls significantly better than he did the other day. So one concern about the U.S., beyond the injuries, is Netravalkar's lack of control in 3 of the 4 overs he bowled. First over, during the power play, brilliant. Second over, that was India's best over during the first 6 overs of the power play, in the power play. And then the final 2 overs he bowled, which I suspect one of those overs he would not have bowled if Ali Khan had been fit. He just gets rocked for 22 in the last over, and each delivery was different. Psychologically, Sky had gotten to him. So he's delivering each ball differently, and just wherever the delivery is, wherever the field is aligned, Sky is finding the gap. He's finding the crease. So, we'll see where Netravalkar's head is at. I tend to think he's experienced. He will recover, but that's something else to watch. So we'll be back with you tomorrow to wrap up Monday and then give maybe more of a preview of Tuesday, including the U.S. match against Pakistan.